A very useful technique we can practice when doing low-altitude flights, what we call hops, is to try a precision landing. We can set up a bullseye or landing target and try to land as close as possible to that bullseye. Now, there are three main rules when it comes to precision landings. Rule number 1, if you overshoot the bullseye or the student overshoots it, they must forget it exists. They must continue their approach moving forward, never backward. Because if they try to turn back or fly backward toward the bull, they could stall the wing. Trying to go back may cause them to brake too much and enter a stall close to the ground. Rule number 2, the student can lose altitude before reaching the bull, but it is absolutely forbidden to use the brakes to lose altitude. They must not pump or pull the brakes to slow down the glider. The brakes should only be used for turning, to make S-turns and lose altitude through turns, or by using big ears, or a combination of big ears and weight shift. But never should the brakes be used as a method to lose altitude. Rule number 3, the priority during landing is to perform a correct landing. That means facing into the wind, being aligned with it, flaring at the right height, and running upon touchdown. Landing correctly is more important than hitting the bullseye at all costs. If a student lands exactly in the center of the bull, but flares too early or late, lands on their butt, or falls, the technique is wrong. It has failed. It's better to land farther from the bull correctly than to crash while trying to land on it. At the end of the day, during this early training stage, the bull is just an excuse, a distraction. What we are really evaluating is that the student makes good decisions. That's far more important than having perfect precision. So, if we see that a student preferred to land correctly away from the bull rather than forcing it, ignoring the wind direction or speed, then that student actually achieved the goal of the exercise. Developing good flight judgment. Some common mistakes in this technique include focusing too much on the bullseye and forgetting important things, like the wind direction, getting out of the harness before landing, or running upon touchdown. But the most dangerous mistake is when the student, in an attempt not to overshoot, begins to brake the glider too high and too much. This can cause a stall and make them fall backward. We must pay close attention to the students' braking when they're flying over the bull with altitude. We can often predict if they're about to brake too much. At that moment, we should tell them simply to raise their hands and continue their approach normally, landing past the bull if necessary. There's no problem with that. Here, the student's task is to land on a set point called the bull. It's a precision landing. They'll try to land near their teammate with the blue glider, and to reach that spot, they should turn right, then left, then right again. S turns to adjust their approach. What's forbidden is using the brakes to lose altitude, meaning braking progressively to slow down and descend. That's prohibited because it can cause the paraglider to stall. What is allowed is to use big ears. Now, if the student overshoots and won't reach the landing spot, they must sit forward in the harness and never try to go backward. If they overshoot, they simply continue their normal landing approach and forget about the bull. Here, the student is using another strategy, moving away from the bull to create more space and a comfortable distance before starting descent maneuvers like big ears or S-turns. This is the most efficient and safest method. Move away when high to create enough space for your descent path. The closer you are to the bull while high, the harder it is to make descent maneuvers safely. Of course, this should only be done when you have altitude. If you are low, you should never move away from the bull, and especially never fly with a tailwind. Full 360 turns should only be done when you're still high. Once you're close to landing, let's say below 50 meters, you should only perform gentle S-turns, right and left. The lower you are, the less steep your turns should be. For example, instead of turning 90 degrees, do 60-degree turns, then 30, and finally during the final approach, fly straight and level. Because when you turn, your speed and descent rate increase, and if you land with too much forward speed or vertical speed, you could hurt yourself. Here we see another student trying to land near the paraglider. They'll likely try the same S-turns, right, left. If they're high, they can also do big ears, combining them with gentle turns. Let's see what happens. Okay, big ears. But maybe it's too late. They waited too long. Let's see what they do now. They could turn a bit more to the right to gain distance. That's what they're doing. And now they're going to perform a 360. That's actually incorrect, because they'll end up landing with a tailwind. In the end, they managed to face the wind, but it was a risky maneuver